Got it.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that everything is going well for you, and you are ready for our program. So today on the show, we have none other than Mike Cermak. If you would like to check out everything that we do here with him, check out the show notes. That's going to be the first place, the most obvious place, computeramerica.com. We'll include links to any articles that we discuss, links, of course. And by the way, Mike Cermak is actually listening in the background very patiently. But if he heads over, and really anyone heads over to Computer America, we gave it a little facelift. And of course, with that being said, it is much easier to click on tech support for Computer America, and it will redirect you to techguy.org, which is, of course, the, our favorite place to send people that when we can't do it here on the air, or, just people need a more immediate answer than my very sluggish self, we, of course, direct people over to techguy.org to join the community and ask their questions. And, hey, even search through the questions. That is also forum etiquette to see if anyone out there has actually asked the question before. So, hey, it's, common courtesy, just so you weren't posting the same question over and over and over again, like, how do you Find My iPhone? Yep, right there, tech support, right at the top, techguy.org, all the good stuff. So, with that being said, let's see, we have articles, we have new reviews. New reviews should be coming out here soon. I think I'm about ready for the headphones that I'm currently using. You may have noticed that we changed them at the beginning of last week, and I think we've been using them on the air, and my goodness, have I fallen in love with the idea of an open back headphone. Because so many people talk about noise isolating, noise canceling, all that kind of good stuff. But just for my paranoid self, like, mobsters are going to break down the door and storm into the studio here. I like being able to hear everything as well as what I do here on the program. So we're going to be reviewing these headphones, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, all that more, Computer America. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest and get today's show started. So, joining us today is, as I said before, the one, the only, longtime Computer America correspondent, owner-operator of techguy.org, Mike Cermak. Mike, how you doing? Welcome back on to Computer America.
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Not half bad. A lot of things happening in the background, and with CES right around the corner, things are really picking up. So, it's definitely a good thing. It's definitely a good thing.
So I love the new website. It looks very sharp. I like it a lot. It looks great. Thank you for the prominent link. I appreciate that very much. And I just joined the live chat room, and I love that I had to agree to the rules. Be cool.
Yeah, really, that's all there is to it. And you would be surprised how many people, because we have some more, such as you have to be following the show for X number of hours and days and things like that. And like even the people who jump through the other hoops with the show, you'd be surprised how many people are not cool. They are very uncool, very, very abrasive. So you'd be surprised why.
I think we need to change our rules for tech support guy to just be, be cool. Like, come on, guys. Just be cool.
That covers the basics, doesn't it, though? And you've run a community for so long. Like, if everyone was just cool, wouldn't that just be so much easier?
We've gone to a lot of work to try to spell out what cool is, and it's an ever-changing thing, and it's something we're actually discussing internally right now. Like some of the rules, were written 15 years ago, and it's time to go through and revamp things a little bit. And I like that. I'm going to suggest that in the next meeting. I'm going to say, here's what we need. Real simple.
We need
And then if we need to ban anyone, we can easily point to it. Like, listen, you just weren't being cool.
Yeah, that's about all it boils down to. But with that being said, and actually I actually have something to bring up here that isn't in our regular topics, and with that being said, I did want to bring one thing up, and this is just bugging me. This is a complete aside that I received, and on a daily basis, I get dozens of PR pitches for, ideas for guests and things like that. And sometimes I'm on the wrong mailing list, but I let it slide because sometimes it's interesting. And this one gentleman wrote a book. I don't recall the name of the book, and I don't want to call them out. But Mike, you also run your own company. You do installations and do tech support and that kind of thing on a professional basis. So as someone who I'm sure has to look after employees, the title of this gentleman's book, I believe, had something to do with, and there were a couple different pitches that the PR, kind of threw out there. One of them was, "Are unhappy employees bringing your business down?" And the other one was, "Is paying your employees enough to make them happy?" And there was like other ways to make employees happy and things like that. And just like, I kind of received these for days after days after days. And these PR pitches, I just wanted to, like, I didn't schedule them on the show, but I just want to scream back at them like, no, sad employees are not bringing down your company. And if they are sad, I feel like that's kind of, corporate and clearly this is meant for like a much larger organization, like a Fortune 500 company. But like the way that I guess they were trying to talk to upper management about these sad employees that are dragging you down, it seemed very condescending, for someone who doesn't have to deal with, a lot of employees here at Computer America. I don't know. It felt like a disconnect.
Yeah, I hear you. I get that kind of junk all the time, and usually don't give it more than a couple of seconds notice. And yeah, and it's interesting, right, about the chicken and the egg with that. Are the sad employees bringing down the organization, or is the organization creating those sad employees?
Yeah, and it's of course very hard to do it. So anyways, I received those emails and actually delisted from that particular mailing list because boy, was there just more stuff coming out from there that I really cared about. So with that aside, I want to again welcome you on the show and techguy.org, of course. Before we get started, everything, how did Halloween go? Obviously, you have a you have a couple kids, so
terrible. We've got 3 kids. Halloween is one of my favorite
don't tell me
holidays
it rained.
every year.
Don't tell me it rained.
It was pouring down. It was so bad. It was a giant debate in our area. And those. I think every community has these Facebook groups, right? The what's really going on in this town and the be in the know town name and that sort of thing. And all the talk and all the controversy was around whether or not Halloween would get rescheduled, because not only did we have 100% chance of rain and lightning and wind, we actually got a tornado warning. and half the towns in the area rescheduled to Friday night, and half the town said, "Well, it's rain or shine. Good luck, kids." and there was a lot of controversy both ways. They're like, you can't reschedule Halloween, and other people are like, I don't want my kid to blow away. So our town did not reschedule, and we were committed. So we ran out real quick and did like 12 houses before the rain came, and we got drenched walking back. My 1-year-old was crying. My umbrella got flipped inside out. It was all kinds of excitement. It will not be a Halloween we will soon forget.
Yeah,
and I got a cold. I don't know if you noticed, but Craig noticed. I also got a cold, and I blame that on Halloween.
Yeah, to me it sounded just fine, but I guess Craig has a special ear for this kind of thing. All that music, all those music lessons. But I will say that one year when I was still trick-or-treating, when I was like 12 or 13, it was pouring. And I remember that was one of the best years I made out, because all of the houses in my neighborhood just set their bowls out on the, out on the stoop, just in case some kids did happen to go by. But no one was expecting us. And like bandits, we came and we dumped the entire bucket. We split 3 ways.
You are a terrible person.
It was my brother. and another neighbor kid, and we split it three ways. In our defense, as far as we know, we were the only ones out there. No one
Well,
else
we had a
braved the rain.
similar, except we're not terrible people, but we had a similar experience in that, we went up to some of the houses and they said, no one else is coming. Here, just take a handful.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Of course, it was unspoken, and yes, we were
Connecting this
crooks.
into technology a little bit, this year, more than any other year I can remember happening, there were all kinds of videos people were sharing from their homes, and some of these people aren't people I even know, but they just kind of went viral, but, of trick-or-treaters coming to their home, and many of them were that, of where they were not home, and they put the bucket out there for people to pick candy, but they saw on their Ring doorbell or whichever one they have these videos, and there was one that was very heartwarming where
I
this kid
recall the one, yeah.
and it was empty, and he took some candy out of his bag and put it in, which is what you're supposed to do, Ben. He probably came right after you left.
He
And
could
then-
not be a viral sensation if people like me didn't exist.
And then there was another one where the mom came up and took some pieces, and the kid's like, "Hey, it says take one," and she says, "Shut up," and pulls him along. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's good and bad people out there, but it made me happy to see the good.
Yeah.
It gives me a little bit of hope in humanity.
Yeah,
Doing
and
good things even when you don't know you're being watched.
well, hey, and we can definitely say that you're being watched more and more. And I don't mean that in a very cynical way. I mean that in a very matter-of-fact way. That I don't know if you took counts of how many doorbells were video, camera doorbells in your neighborhood, but they are certainly
It's
spreading.
Yeah,
None.
you're right. Obviously, they definitely are.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, we have a full list of stories and topics and things that we can discuss, and more than we can possibly get to. But I thought that we'd have fun with it and just kind of pick our favorites. And I wanted to go by your list first. One of the topics that we did not discuss yesterday on the show because we did a full hour. One of them was Google's recent acquisition of Fitbit. And
Right.
yeah, and just to give everyone a quick background, like around Monday we heard rumors that they might be offering something, and then Tuesday they came out with a $2.1 billion deal that I think, and you might know this better than I do, did Fitbit agree, or is that 2.1 billion just not even within the realm of possibility?
My understanding was that it was agreed. I don't think it's been approved yet, but I think they
Right.
have agreed to it. I was just trying to bring that up and an autoplay video started. Sorry.
Yeah, I noticed the autoplay as well. But yeah, so
Gotta
they
love that.
announced 2.1 to acquire the thing, and of
You know,
course, yeah.
it's funny from a personal perspective. I owned some Fitbit stock at one time, a couple of years ago, and sold it. And now, of course, it's gone up a good bit here in the last couple of months during this talk of it's still pretty terrible, but it's gone up a good bit here in the last couple of months as a result of the talks. I think that Google is buying it at the right time. I mean, it's their stock price is down by like 10 times versus what it was 4 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah, and sorry to step on here, but
Yeah.
one of the big reasons is that Fitbit, like they had the first killer wearable. Like everyone wanted a Fitbit to
Right.
track their steps and that kind of thing, but they've never been able to reproduce a second device that was able to sell as well as the first one. And they try time over time. I think they're up to like the Fitbit 3 or something like that, but they never seem to catch fire again. But like the core of the business is still doing very well. I mean, people keep their Fitbits for a long time.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, and also, of course, now Fitbit more than they did in 3 or 4 years ago. Now they're competing with smart watches. You've got a lot of people with the Apple Watch who like that, and it reproduces a lot of the same features that the Fitbit does,
Yeah.
and adds a lot more to it. And I'm wearing my Wear watch right now, and so they have a lot more devices to compete with, and I think they're having a hard time. How do you compete with Apple?
Yeah,
It's not easy. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not wearing an Apple Watch myself, but it's not easy.
Well, even Apple can barely compete with Apple because they're having a hard time, pushing the Apple Watch. Like even the most successful devices in the category, which I would say are kind of either wearables or fitness, kind of fitness watches, fitness devices, even the best in the category still woefully underperform, as by market analysts who want everything to sell gangbusters so that everyone makes a lot of money. But just in reality, I don't think that they nothing in the wearable market is really selling all that well. Even Apple is having a hard time finding profit. So
Yep.
but now
and
Google.
Google's widely criticized for their Wear devices. They've really not seen a serious update in many years. There was a new processor chip that came out this year that increases battery life slightly, but isn't actually any faster than the old one. It's really been very stagnant, and this has given hope to some people that maybe Google is going to get back into the wearable market with some seriousness again. I don't know if I necessarily see that, but I hope so. But the talk here is that the real thing they're buying is the healthcare information, your health data.
Yeah, and really, when you think about it, Google and data, is there a better match made in heaven? So here's the question I guess people should be asking, which is, well, they should be asking themselves. I shared my information with Fitbit. Am I comfortable with that information then being shared with Google? And of course, by submitting the information to Fitbit, it is Fitbit's property. Like, unfortunately, that's the state of our data laws, is that they can be sold like any other commodity, and they are, in fact, I'm sure a big chunk of that $2.1 billion is for the personal data that Fitbit of course uses. And actually, before I kind of pose the question to you, Mike, remember Fitbit also has a very good ability to track where people go, where people walk, and think about when you go through stores, like when you go shopping, they track your movement. Like, it's not just fitness and health, but also movement and location data on top of all this.
Interesting.
So all of that put
Interesting.
together,
I'm not.
what do you think Google would do with all that?
Oh, Google wants as much data as possible. That's also why they, have bought the Nest line of products and everything else. And their key is data. I mean, the hardware is just a side effect of it. They're interested in the data, and I think it's clear, that they believe, as does Apple, that health is the next big area to get into in tech. People are more worried about their health, and the more you can connect that and be the company that holds that data and holds the keys to connect it to other services, the better off they'll be.
Now, and the article makes a point here. This is a story that I've been through so much stuff in my recent personal life that this doesn't even affect me anymore. But it can kind of be a touchy subject because it's mixing women's health and technology. And the article here mentions the period tracking apps. And this woman had a grievance with one of these applications because it actually alerted advertisers that she was probably pregnant because she missed a couple of her periods. And, suddenly she started getting advertisements everywhere for baby clothes, baby, paraphernalia. And she was not pregnant.
That's a big industry.
Yeah. And she was not pregnant whatsoever. It's just that these companies are, like, I think she took it as an invasion of her privacy. But, she's using the app and she's giving away her data. What level of, like, I think people are okay with giving away the data. It's just that they don't understand how good companies are getting at compiling the data into useful data sets.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right. And I think people underestimate how much they are the product. We've talked about this with Gmail and other things, that when Gmail first came out, everyone said no one would use it because of all the ads that are in it, and that Google is reading your emails in order to give you targeted ads and things like that. And now if you tell people that, they shrug their shoulders and be like, yeah, well, where's my device you're going to put in my house to listen to everything I say? Like, I don't care. Privacy? What? And it's the same sort of thing. And of course, the pregnancy thing is, I don't know if it's true or not that it really happened exactly that way, but if it did, it's interesting, and if it didn't, it surely is going to happen.
Right.
And that's just one possible example. Like, you could see that being used for other things, that whether it's whatever sort of disease you could imagine, that they might say, this user has a 83.2% chance of having back pain. We should start pushing them ads for that. Or this person may be a diabetic, or this person may have, whatever. Or look at the smart scale. Ben's weight has gone up 10% in the last month. We need to start pushing him some diet.
That's so sadly true. But I was like, I don't know why you use those numbers, but yes. I will say though that really, if you mix, to your point, if you mix, let's say, Ben has been moving a lot less in the past week. He has Googled cures for back pain or potential back problems, what could be causing them, and you mix that with, a bunch of other things, maybe then there's a near 100% chance that you could start pushing chiropractic services to this person, and they would be very
And you don't
interested in
even need it to be 100%, right? I mean, if you say that this person is 3 times more likely than the average person
Yeah.
to be interested in boom, I mean, that data is worth some money.
Yeah. So all that being mixed together, and then of course Fitbit. If nothing else, this, like, if you have problems with Google collecting data at this point, boy, it's like
You can't
complaining.
use the internet.
Yeah, it's like complaining that your bunny ears don't get good enough reception. It's just a complaint for the wrong time. Google has already been there, done that, and they're going to keep doing that. But the only good thing, or the only development out of this I'm hoping for, is, of course, maybe Google will have a decent wearable that they are able to put out. And hey,
I would really like to see that. I mean,
a wearable with Google's digital assistant within it and able to control and, work within their ecosystem. Hopefully.
Right.
Right.
That would be wonderful. Yes, if you can make that happen for me, Ben, I'd be very happy.
I'll put my best people on it, and of course, I'll
that.
put my best multi-billion-dollar data amalgamation together for you. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and actually transition very, very seamlessly into another topic, and this has to do with fair for everyone out there. We did cover this yesterday, and I gave my opinions and feelings on this. I wanted yours, so we're not going to go over the story in its entirety, but the short and skinny of it has to do, this article is from CNET, and it has to do lasers. Yes, that mythical, like, lasers have reached, I think, almost the mythical proportions of magnets. They can do anything. And how do they work? Who the heck knows? But lasers can hijack your digital assistants, and I'm going to try to not say them to, resist waking up everyone's assistants. But I will say, that's I believe it was a team out of Japan with MIT. They worked on a way to use a $14 and $17 laser pointer, essentially mix it with like a couple $100 worth of hardware and of course software, and they were able to shine a light onto the microphone of the digital assistants, and they were able to give it simple commands like wake up the assistant, and then if they knew how to do it right, they could open a door or order something. They could do all that with a laser through a window, and the media took off with it. The media was crazy over it. So what was your reaction to this?
It was interesting because I didn't know. Apparently, I don't know physics that well. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. I didn't know you could use a laser to operate a microphone. And even if you could, I certainly didn't imagine that you could do it with enough accuracy to reproduce a vocal signal. Maybe you could make a block noise on it or something, but I didn't think you would be able to fine tune it to say, unlock the front door, which is the sort of thing that they are giving as an example here of being done. And it's interesting, the distance you can be from the device to be able to do it varies a great deal by the device. But in one example, I think it was for the Echo devices, you could be like 200 or 250 feet away from it and hit it with this laser and operate it. Yeah. With the phones, you had to be much, much closer. But that's a scary distance. That's... so that's like a through the window kind of distance. Yeah. Now that was one question I had that I didn't see answered in these articles, is if it could operate well through a window, or if that's going to disperse the laser too much.
So they were able to operate this through a window. Obviously, it still had to be within a fair distance, and essentially the cliff notes of my points yesterday were that if you somehow manage to buy this laser, which is pretty affordable, they're pretty available, teach yourself how to use the software so that you can strobe the laser as to mimic human speech to give specific commands to these things. And you were able to set up what looked like a Whitesnake concert in someone's front yard without the neighbors going, what is that guy doing over there with all the lasers into that stranger's home? If you're able to pull all of this off, then yes, you might be able to get a garage door open. But the odds of this actually happening in the wild, if this happened today or tomorrow, you would have your culprits because it's going to be one of the 5 students working in this research team. No one knows how to do this except these guys, and it's going to take a lot of trial and error. They show that it's possible, and even the companies themselves, Amazon and Google and so on and so forth, even they said, we're watching it, but we're not going to issue any updates. We're not going to do any recalls. Essentially, they said they're
I
not
don't
going to
know
do
how
anything.
much they can really do. I don't know if there's
Well,
a
they could
lot they
issue-
can do to.
Well, and my big thing is that most of these devices have a pinhole microphone, just like you find in a laptop or anything else like that. They could put a little cover over that, and it would of course block the light, and it would probably reduce the ability for sound to
Right.
come through, but it would solve the laser problem. It's just the laser problem is not really that big of an issue. So I don't know. It seemed like I'm surprised that this got so much attention when the viability of it seems so slim,
I understand that. You're right. But it feels like the sort of thing that could be. I don't know the type of lasers that are used or how much they cost, but certainly the
Under
software
20,
side of it.
under $20.
Yeah, see that's worrisome because the software, now that people know it's possible, it's not going to be that difficult to, for someone out there is going to share that. That's going to be, you can download it from somewhere, and once that happens,
Ladies and gentlemen, if you see a laser coming in through your window, and just like that scene from Indiana Jones where he has the staff of Ra and he's opening up whatever he's opening up with the staff of Ra, and you see like a laser coming through, hitting your digital assistant just perfectly, stand in front of the laser, move your device, yell at the kids to stop trying to steal your stuff.
get off my lawn.
There's also a very, very visual component to this, kind of threat. So it's not the best. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say
but some culmination of that was that after you have hundreds of dollars worth of equipment, you have trained yourself in this software, you know what to do, you have set everything up. Someone who actually wants to rob a house is going to go around back, take a rock, smash the window, get in.
Sure.
And they would have done the whole thing way easier. But you're right. As a proof of concept,
the scary
they
thing
did
with
good.
this is that it could potentially open up a house without leaving any evidence that someone was in there. If I come in and break into the back of your house, you're going to know something's up, someone was in there. But if I can come in there, do whatever I want to do, steal things, place cameras, do whatever, and then walk out without you having ever known I was in, that's a scarier thing. And my thought was, as far as the solution goes, I think that trying to put a cover over the mic probably isn't real viable just due to the sensitivity that they want for these microphones. But I wonder if they could instead just add a sensor that could detect laser light and cancel that out. Say, I see someone shining a laser at me. Let's not be listening at this moment.
So for anyone watching the video portion, you can see me here. Hi, how you doing? Microphone obviously here in front of me. I have a whatever this sock is for pops and whistles and whatever. Something like this would probably block a laser and not muffle the microphone all too much. Like I feel like maybe like a slip cover, like change the sheets on your digital assistant. Maybe I don't know. There should be, and sorry for any muffling you hear me putting it back on, but it's I feel like there are solutions if this becomes a problem. I just see it not really going to be a problem. But as proof of concept, very cool. And I love to hear when security-minded people think outside the box like this. So I like the story on a concept. I did not like all the attention it received almost unjustly. So
what's your address again, and what type of assistant do you use?
123 North Pole Lane. But I'm not going to be home in the month of December. So with that being said, let's go ahead and check some of these others out. So yesterday on the show we covered the UPS and the drones and the in the retirement.
Of course
home.
You did.
Yeah. Hey, it was pretty big
no
news.
problem.
But so we're not going to cover that one. Go check that out yesterday. Some of these other ones that we did not cover, and I'm actually interested in this one because Computer America, just like 70 or 80% of the web in North America uses WordPress for their sites.
Heck yeah.
You found this article, so very greedy of me. I want some free awareness, alerts. But WordPress, what's happening with infected or pirated plugins?
Yeah, so the and that's really the key. Just I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who pirate any software, so I kind of feel like they're going to get what they deserve here. But apparently there is a major outbreak of sites that have been using some pirated software that they find out that there's this WP-VCD in it that allows hackers to get in and do basically whatever they want onto your site.
Real quick,
It's
WP WordPress, I assume. VCD. What is VCD?
Good question. I don't know the answer to
Let's
that.
Google that real quick, and let's see. So WP VCD, whoever gets it first gets $50. And look, I got it first. I didn't though, so my $50. Let's see. So I have no idea what a VCD is. I'm assuming it's some kind of backdoor or some kind of code that they can run to let them
That's
have
exactly
access.
what it is. It's an injection, server code injection, so that they can put in whatever they want to into the server and make it run it. Uh, but that's an excellent question. I will do some research
No
here.
one is defining it. I've found like 3 articles. No one's defining it. So weird. But yeah. So and of course, pirate. Just real quick. So for those people who don't run WordPress sites, plugins are simple things that Let's say you can get plugins for everything from calendars to put on your website to RSS feeds so that you can have articles pop up and things like that.
Right.
Most WordPress sites have a lot of different plugins. To pirate them, though, I can safely say I've never done that. So yay, Computer
Good.
America.
You shouldn't.
But I like some of them can be very, very unique, customizable, and very expensive. So people will pirate them.
Just like people pirate any software, it's been
Yeah,
going on forever, and so that's just it. There are sites where you can download, paid plugins for free, just like people downloading music for free that from sketchy sites, and a lot of these are infected with this
so I guess
particular.
part of this, and so often when we talk about WordPress and vulnerabilities, we talk about the fact that you should always keep your plugins up to date. You should always update your themes and things like that. Like whenever there's any kind of update, you should do that immediately with WordPress because most updates are security patches and fixes.
Right.
This is a plugin that would theoretically be completely up to date, but vulnerable by design, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. As a result of the place where you got it, not the original author of the
Right.
plugin, but from one of these sites that are giving it away for free. Uh, it's injected in there before it's uploaded onto one of these sites where you can download it for free.
So, with that being said, what can happen to a WordPress site? Because obviously, if you're able to get in there, you can obviously edit the content on the site. You can change
Hmm.
everything.
Right. What we see most often is people injecting code into there that will either redirect visitors to another site or redirect them to a download for a plugin or some other. The end goal isn't just to hack your site. It's to get all of the visitors of your site to download something and be able to then hack their computers or add their computers to a botnet or push ads to their computers or things like that.
Yeah, and that's of course horrible because if let's say you go to Computer America, you can trust Computer America because you can trust us. But if suddenly you go to ComputerAmerica.com and a pop-up says download this great new software, yeah, you might be more willing to trust it than if you accidentally click somewhere else. So
Yep, that's absolutely right. And we always say don't download anything except for trustworthy sites, and I don't like using Computer America as an example here because of course you guys
please
have
do,
never been
please do.
but but if you go to, your favorite news site or someplace and they happen to be hacked somehow, all of a sudden they're sending you a download, and some of them can be quite convincing, especially for not so much the listeners of your show, but especially for people who aren't computer literate. They can be easily fooled by pop-up ads that look like,
Yeah.
software updates. And it can be pretty serious. So
Oh, and hey, actually, and we're probably going to swap topics here in just a second, but I did
sure.
want to say that I want to give a little shout out to Gmail. I know, little known company, Gmail, or little known
I
service.
think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they actually saved me from my stupid self. So I had a guest on the show, and after the show, we wrapped everything up. We were good. Normally, we don't hear back from them for a couple of months until they come on the show again. And I received an email from the gentleman that was on the show like the day after, and he's like, "Here, download this link." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" He was just on the show. Maybe he wanted to provide some material that I could publish on the website. And I tried to click it, and it said, and Gmail was like, this could potentially be a virus. We stopped the download and things like that. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I know the guy.
Trust
Gmail,
me, I'm a computer guy. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so I tried it three times to download, and every single time Gmail and probably Chrome to some extent all stopped it from downloading. And I even tried to open the files even after I kind of brute forced it. And
Give
Windows,
me my virus.
And Windows said, "Dude, really, stop it. You're being really stupid." And eventually, I decided, I can't get it to work. Like that was I didn't have some epiphany where I'm like, this is probably a virus. I was like, I can't get this to work. So I didn't do anything about it. About an hour later, the gentleman sent a mass email out saying, "Excuse me, my email was compromised. Please ignore the previous email. Sorry about that." And I was like, man, these browsers are smarter than me, and thank goodness they are.
Yeah, and the thing to take away from this story to the listeners is not that Ben was dumb, but if Ben can fall for this, anyone can. I mean, he knows that he talks about this stuff every day. He knows computer security, and he so be careful out there. If you get one of those warnings, really do stop for a minute.
Yeah, and absolutely, and be sure to ask questions and everything that I didn't do. It's just that it was from someone I trusted, and that tied in with our topic here was that maybe you trust the website, and I definitely trusted the person. So yeah, and hey, even when I send you links for the show, in the footer, it says here, you have one set up for your organization. This email originated from outside the organization. Please exercise caution with links and attachments. Yeah, you even have them in your own organization. So
absolutely. Well, and we have that by default for a lot of our customers as well, because it's very easy for people to send an email and make it look like it's coming from someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple, and we've had customers where someone in the office got an email that appeared to be coming from someone else and said, "Hey, can you open this file for me and print it, or can you click here and order this thing for me, or whatever it is," and it looks like it's coming from some legitimate source in the organization, so people fall for it very easily. So just having that little banner there, and you can set that up really easily in most email systems, like we use Office 365,
right?
And I highly recommend organizations do that, because that even a little thing like that, it can make a big difference.
So Microsoft recently beat out Amazon Web Services. I don't know if you heard this. It was about a week or two ago. And just a quick aside, Microsoft beat out Amazon Web Services for upgrading the Pentagon, of all places. I guess their network hasn't really seen a good upgrade since the mid 90s. Kind of when internet was becoming a thing. Of course, they had, the military and the Pentagon had internet in the 70s before anyone else did, but they hadn't seen a real renovation since the 90s. I guess now they're heading into a new one, and they beat out Amazon for like a $20 billion contract to do that. And part of that contract is that the Pentagon is going to be using their own version of Office suites. Like, yes, the highest, like the most secretive organization is going to be using Office 365 as well. I just thought that was interesting.
Sure. Well, I mean, it makes sense to a certain extent. Why would you reinvent the wheel? But on the other hand, maybe having something completely unique to you is there's pros and cons to both, right? I mean, if there's a problem in Office 365 for security, very likely someone's going to discover it. If you have your own system that you've written, it's harder for people to find it, but it's more likely it's there and no one's noticed it.
Right.
It kind of goes back to, I'm sure you saw in the news within the last week or two about the upgrades to the missile command system that were using, what was it, 8-inch floppy disks?
Floppies.
Yeah, which are harder to find these days. I don't know if you were aware of that. You can't get them next day on Amazon.
I have not tried to buy one lately.
You're stocked up, are you? And there's benefits to it, though, as people were pointing out, that with that type of technology, it's awfully hard to hack it. It's where if you move it to something new, I mean that technology is solid and you know it's going to work the way it's meant to work because it has for 40 years or more.
But there's a problem when you have, I'm sure, literally thousands of pounds of floppies, when you could have literally no pounds of usable data that's not stored there, because it wasn't so much about kind of maintaining the facility or maintaining the missiles themselves. It was just location data of potential targets and things like that. As far as I know, that's what I heard, and actually. I kind of mused on the air. Wouldn't it be cool to own one of those? Like, I know that they destroyed all of them because they were taking readings up until about 6 months ago. Like, a lot of the information on those floppies are going to be relevant even to today. So undoubtedly they destroyed them in a fire, and that's the end of them. I would love to own one though. That seems like a cool piece of history.
I agree. That would be very cool to have. And
But
then you could sell
yeah.
to Russia.
You would, for much more than you paid for it. Absolutely. And you, of course, you get a free meeting with the FBI with that. Now, with that being said, one last
Just
topic.
for suggesting it, I might get a free meeting.
Absolutely. So one of the last topics I wanted to cover before we move on to some of the ones that I sent you. Windows 10 November 2019 update. These Windows updates have actually been surprisingly robust when they do land. They add a lot, they change a lot, and so I like to cover some of the basics that happen from every update, which usually happen. I think Microsoft is on like they do like a smaller fall update, I believe, and like a larger spring update. I don't know if they switched that model up a little bit, but we should be heading into, or we have, or whatever this version 1909. I'm sure, as everyone is calling it around the water cooler. This should be a smaller update, but still an update altogether. So, what is this?
Yeah, so the new version 1909 is scheduled or expected to be coming out here anytime, and it's the November 2019 update. The kind of interesting, there's a couple new features that are in there that's kind of exciting for geeks. There's some performance optimization and some changes in the way that they handle a couple things behind the scenes. There are a couple shortcuts in the start menu that users will actually notice, but the part that was kind of snuck in that this article is referring to are the system requirements for Windows 10 1909 have changed just a little bit. Of course, they're still suggesting 1 gig of RAM, minimum 1 gig of RAM for 32-bit and 2 gigs for 64-bit because, who has that? But the problem for Windows 10 has been hard drive space. I've had customers who've gone out and they buy the cheapest laptop they can find, and I tell them, get a solid state computer. Why would you buy a new computer that doesn't have a solid state hard drive in it? And they end up finding these very cheap ones that have 32 gig memory in them for storage, not 32 gigs of RAM, but 32 gigs, solid state
Yeah,
storage in,
yeah.
and which is almost enough to run Windows 10 on. And it's very frustrating because you can't really use it for anything. You start doing the Windows updates on it, and you run out of space very quickly.
You know,
So
oh, and just to say something that when I upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, I had a 32 or 64 because it was from years and years and years ago. I've since
yep.
upgraded to a very nice M.2 SSD. It's very fast. I like it. But I had like a 32 or 64, and I recall that I had the Windows 7 operating system on the SSD, and then Windows 10 was trying to download the entire operating system so that it could then flash all of your save settings and files and things like that. Essentially, you had to have Windows 7 and Windows 10 on the same hard drive at the same time, and
Right.
it just wasn't large enough. Like, it completely shut down the whole thing. I think I had to start over completely from scratch because I could not have both on such a small hard drive.
Right. Yeah, I believe that's right. And in the past, and for Windows 10 1809 and earlier, the requirements were 16 gigs of hard drive space for 32-bit and 20 gigabytes of hard drive space for 64-bit. And so now they're saying 32 gigabytes is the minimum. Sorry if I misspoke there. And I think that really that's what it has been for quite a while. I don't think that's really a change. I think it's just that they are recognizing it.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds much closer. And of course, if hard drives are sold in the 16, 32, 64, 128, whatever whatever you call that scheme. So there are many mass-produced 32 gig hard drives, but obviously you're not going to want to try to squeeze in the bare minimum. You want to at
No,
least go
please
one above
don't.
it. One above it at
Yes,
least.
and hopefully this will be a little hint to the manufacturers to stop pulling that crap. I mean, when you could say Windows 10 takes 20 gigabytes before, I mean that was a stretch, but and you could say, oh, it's a 32 gig. Yeah, you got plenty of space, which we all know isn't true. But now I'm hoping that will trigger manufacturers to go to at least 64 as their bare minimum. It's just ridiculous to try to run Windows 10 on 32.
Right. And by the way, earlier I said M.2. I probably should have said NAND flash instead of M.2. That's probably a more accurate term. I tried to find this chart, and for everyone out there, like I'm sure that price per gigabyte is the first thing everyone thinks about, but for traditional hard drives, it's pretty much stagnated. And I don't know if you knew this, Mike, but it's pretty much stagnated at like 2 to 3 cents per gig for traditional hard drives. So that's why you can spend $100 and you'll get like a 2 terabyte hard drive. That's kind of what they're getting at. SSDs, I remember, back in my day, I remember when it was like $1, it hit 50 cents. Everyone was like, this is great. I think we're down to about 11 or even like 9 cents at this point. Yes, it's still technically like 4 times as expensive as a non-solid state drive, but still 9 cents versus 2 cents, it's worth the upgrade. It really is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It makes a huge difference. I remember back in the day when I first started building computers, and Craig probably remembers this too. We used to buy hard drives, and you would pay $1 per megabyte. So if you wanted a 100 megabyte hard drive, you'd pay $100. If you wanted a
Oh
200
no.
megabyte hard drive, it was $200. It was very reliably, right, for a long time. That was the going rate.
I mean,
I'm old.
if we're really swapping stories, I'm sure that we can go all the way back to the first IBM computers, and I think they paid something like $640,000, something like that, for like one 500 kilobyte storage unit. So, it's technology evolves and changes, and I got to say, SSDs, I'm right there with you as always. Yeah, you should go for that upgrade. That's totally worth the
And
money.
make sure it's more than 32 gigs. But for goodness
Absolutely.
sake, don't be so cheap that, penny or what is it? Penny smart and dollar foolish.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's worth it.
but that's kind of the thing is that I would say like 128 would probably be the minimum that you want, and even that is kind of pushing it if it's your only drive. A lot of people have two, one for storage and one for everyday applications, but even like 128 one is only like less than like $100. It'd be like 50 or 60 at that point. It's pretty darn cheap to get a decent
There's
size one.
really no reason to go any cheaper.
Right. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple things. So I wanted to bring, because you own a Tesla, we like to remind people that all the time. And I wanted to bring up this next story because it would not be a show with you if we didn't have some kind of Tesla news.
That's in my contract here.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Tesla, man, it's almost whiplash inducing when Tesla is doing, when they don't meet market expectations or their expenses are, higher than people thought, their stock just tanks so hard. And then as soon
It's
as
a
they
roller
show,
coaster.
yeah, and then as soon as Tesla reports earnings higher than expected, or they actually made money instead of losing money one quarter, their stock just shoots back up. And that's what happened this past quarter. And hey, maybe this next announcement could add to that, because what do Americans love more?
America.
Yeah, America indeed. What do Americans love more than anything? Our guns and our pickup trucks. And ladies and gentlemen, Tesla is not putting out a gun. But they might be putting out a pickup truck. So check this one out. This one from The Verge. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but Elon Musk has called the supposedly Blade Runner design heart-stopping.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
know.
It's going to be exciting to see. They say it's going to seat 6 people and start around $50,000. The exciting part, though, is between 400 and 500 miles of range for the highest end, the biggest battery version.
So
It's and Elon has said from the beginning that he wants this to be a truck. He wants it to be utilitarian, be able to pull a serious load, and there's been a lot of speculation and discussion about things like having a built-in inverter that will allow you to have 110 outlets on the truck bed,
yeah,
and
that'd be really
and
cool.
which makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you do that? And the other speculation that I found really interesting was to have a oh, my mind is blanking due to this cold, but a tailgate not only in the back but also in the front.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have an engine, of course.
There's right. You have the frunk up front, and so you could lift it up and have that fold down like another tailgate, which I thought was a really clever idea. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. No one knows yet. Well, I guess Elon knows, but we don't know yet.
That
But it will be interesting
yeah.
to see.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good use of it because obviously that would just be crumple zone or just generally not used, and because it would be an electric truck, it would be able to look a lot different than a regular truck. I guess the question here is that it's going to have to it's not just about range with trucks. Yeah, under precise conditions in a full charge and perfect weather, 4 to 500, that is an amazing amount of range. But the question becomes, what happens when it's loaded with, how much can it haul, and when it's fully loaded, what does that range look like? Because if it's if it's not usable, like he's kind of like Elon Musk alluded to, if it's not usable as a truck, then unfortunately, I just don't feel like it'll be appealing to truck owners.
Right. My only concern on it really is if it looks too different. He's talked about it being a Blade Runner truck and all of that. I fear some people will be turned off, just by the looks of it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Truck owners are weird, and I don't mean to lump them into almost like another species of people, but truck owners, like the ones that I know, and especially the people who work in trades, like I have friends who do air conditioning and they work on cars and things like that. They're called mechanics. That's the job title. When they have trucks, they beat them up because you got to get things done, and these trucks have to be sturdy, reliable, and you have to not worry about scratching the paint. You just have to get the engine block into the back of this truck more than having to worry about the paint on this truck. I think you're right. If this thing looks too strange, then or it looks like almost like I don't want to say like a toy, but if it looks too pretty, people might be afraid that it won't be sturdy enough to
Right.
like. I feel like Elon Musk is gonna have to go out there and just like literally. I don't mean take a bat to it, but just beat these things up to show people that it's okay that you're spending all this money on a truck, but you're spending on it on a really reliable, good-looking truck.
Right. And that it will truly be used or capable to be used as a truck. And I think they can do that. There's a lot of talk about the Tesla big rig, the Tesla, what do they call it? The semi.
Yeah.
Tesla Semi, and how it is being addressed, to the issues that a truck driver have to deal with, which are not things that I'm familiar with. Hopefully, they've done something similar here.
Yeah, absolutely. And my point with all that kind of beating up part is that they here in the article they said that Musk mentioned he did want to take on the F-150. The F-150, of course, being the best-selling truck in the nation for 20 years running. And people like them.
I think the best-selling vehicle in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. They, the F-150.
Not just the best-selling truck, but yeah.
Yeah. The F-150 is is of course, if you're going to take anyone down, good thing it's not the Prius because that's pretty easy to do. If you can,
I owned a Prius.
Good. But if you can take down the F-150, then that is going to be, something very impressive. I don't know how long that'll take him to do, but
I'm interested to see how Ford and others react to this because I'm surprised at how slow they have been to come out with electric vehicles. Now, I'll also tell you, Ben, I didn't share this with you. I should have. Both one of my employees and my father, within the last 2 weeks, have both bought an EV, and both of them were Chevy Bolts.
Oh yeah,
and they're great vehicles. I've driven around in them. They have some great technology in them. They go 235 miles on a charge. It's great. The biggest thing I think that would keep me toward a Tesla at this point is the charging stations. There are a lot more Tesla superchargers. The infrastructure is out there a lot more, but I think that will improve over time. So I think it'll take a while, but will there be another EV truck coming out? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, and I'd say that's Daimler. Daimler, of course, owns Mercedes, and over in the EU, kind of what Ford is to the US, Mercedes is to the EU when it comes to kind of like service trucks and work trucks and things like that, partly because of the giant emission scandal that happened over there, and heads metaphorically rolled. They said that they are going to be moving their entire diesel lineup out of commission by like 2030 or 2025, whatever it was. And every version of their gas-powered cars or trucks, they're going to have an electric version to compete. And they know that, I don't know if the EU is much more aggressive on their emission standards, but yeah, Daimler is going to have an all-electric version of, kind of like the work truck, the work van, long or freight haulers. So other companies, like if Ford's not doing it, other companies are definitely doing it. And I feel like in the car industry, if you're behind on technology, that puts you in a very bad place for a very long time. So I would be surprised if Ford, Chevy, if all of these car companies aren't doing it.
Yeah, I hope that they do, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen more companies take this more seriously. We'll have to wait and see.
I kind of think the big part, and this is where you got to give Elon Musk credit, is that he knows that it's not just about selling cars. It's not just about putting wheels on a chassis and calling it a day. Really, the core of his business, and I think this is why Tesla may be a little bit better positioned to do all these weird things, like come out with a truck, kind of suddenly, or have a full lineup out of nowhere, is that it's, these cars and these trucks aren't really cars and trucks. They're going to be batteries. It's all about the batteries, and Elon Musk with his whatever the Power City or whatever it is,
Solar City,
Solar City, and of course the Powerwall and the battery plant that I'm trying to think of.
Gigafactory.
Thank you. Yeah, like they're good names. I just can't remember them. So
no worries.
With Gigafactory and the one opening in China just recently, I think he set himself up very well to capitalize on these markets because he's going to have the batteries to do this. Whereas Ford, Chevy, and all these others, they have to develop their supply chains to get the batteries.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So.
Yeah, that's true, and that can be a limiting factor. But other companies like Nissan really, they had the Leaf out even before Tesla did.
They did.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they haven't jumped in and had something better to offer.
We've said it on the show before. Electric vehicles, and I made fun of your Prius. I didn't mean to. Priuses are actually think of them like tanks. They're very sturdy. They're very reliable. They just keep on going. They're energy efficient. Really, Priuses are amazing for, cars that just need to keep going. But Tesla and Elon Musk, they made electric vehicles attractive. They made them look good, and they made vehicles that people wanted. And I think now they're waking up to the idea that electric vehicles are what we want. It's not so much Tesla. Although we all still really want a Tesla. So,
well, and I'm okay with it not being a Tesla, but I think electric vehicles are going to be the future.
It took Tesla to kind of wake everyone up and say, electric vehicles are okay. They're not just toys. They're not just golf carts. They're good vehicles. So
they can look good. They can go far. They can be actually functional.
Absolutely. So with that being said, we don't have time for a lot of these other articles that I had, but we have a little bit of time. So I wanted to bring up, just because we're on Tesla, Elon Musk, and let's talk. And actually, I think I'll save this Robinhood exploit, which I don't know if you had a chance to look over that. Holy crap.
No, I didn't.
That was hilarious. I'm going to include it in the show notes. Everyone out there, go check it out. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Because essentially the gist of that story was that Robinhood, the stock buying app, let anyone leverage infinite line of credit with no collateral. It was,
whoops.
Yeah, big whoops. Like people were putting in $1,500 and they were getting $1 million worth of credit. It was bad. So, but just real quick, we have like a minute left. Elon Musk, SpaceX is chasing the holy grail of a completely reusable rocket. So I guess he's not just satisfied with a reusable, I guess it's the stage 1, but he wants a reusable stage 2 and 3. Although, isn't that what a space shuttle is? Or I guess does a rocket do something more than a shuttle would? I
Good
guess.
question. I guess it does, right? The rocket is
Probably
more
more hauling, right? Yeah.
right, right.
So yeah, so unfortunately, we just don't have time to really get into this. But Elon Musk, he's come a long way from the nerd that started PayPal, and yeah, now he's turning into real life Iron Man at this point because he's man, he's trying to send everything into space, including his constellation, his star projects, Starlink. There we go. He's really getting Starlink up and going here lately. Uh, yeah, Mike, we just don't have any time for that. Why don't we go ahead and just start wrapping up? If people want to find out more, of course, computeramerica.com, show notes, and like I said, right there at the top of the website at Computer America, you can find a link to techguide.org. And Mike, what will people find when they get there?
Yeah, so it's a forum where people can go in, ask their questions. If you have any kind of computer issues whatsoever, a volunteer will help you out. It's completely free, paid for by advertisers and donations, and we've been around for a very, very long time. I don't even remember when now, 20 years almost. And yeah, come check it out and join the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely do that. And Mike, until next time, we'll have to coordinate our schedules because obviously the holidays are coming up and CES coming up in January. It's going to be busy, but thank you so much for taking time, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a good one. Thank you.
All right. And everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in to Computer America. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.